In our last story about the Mahabharata, we talked about Vedvyas. This story goes deeper into the entire saga. Today, we're going to learn a little about how the Pandavas were born. We were going to learn a little about who Pandu was. And we're going to learn a little of what led to the circumstances of the Pandavas' birth. Hastinapur. After the death of Vichitravirya and before that of Chitrangad, Hastinapur went into a sort of decline. It is true that thanks to Vedvyas's intervention, there were two princes. Actually, three princes. Dhritarashtra, the blind child, Pandu, the albino, and Vidur, the smart guy. As they were growing up, Bhishma poured all his energy into their upbringing. Dhritarashtra was strong as an ox. But it was clear from the very beginning that it was Pandu whose brains and whose might would take the kingdom forward. Pandu was a born warrior. Bhishma became his guru. Himself, Bhishma, the student of the great Parashuram. He put in all his energies into Pandu, and it was clear before long that Pandu was a great warrior. Hastinapur was still in decline. You see, Bhishma did not have the time to do conquests. He did not have the time to raise the bar of the kingdom because he was too busy taking care of his princes. Pandu grew up. When Pandu was 18, Pandu came to Bhishma and said, "It's time. It's time that I had larger responsibilities." And Bhishma agreed. Dhritarashtra became the king. He was already the Yuvraj. Bhishma remained the regent, and Pandu was made the commander-in-chief. People laughed at this. After all, Pandu was an unknown quantity. Nobody knew anything much about him. And how could you make Pandu the chieftain, the chief commander of the great Kuru forces? Pandu saw that. And Pandu proposed that he go out to conquer the rest of India. At first, Bhishma was slightly hesitant. But Satyavati intervened, and Pandu, at the head of the great army, marched across the nation. He conquered Anga, Kalinga, Vanga. He even laid to waste Magadha. Pandu conquered India. Bharatvarsh was under Pandu. And Pandu now needed to get married. Dhritarashtra was already married to Gandhari. That's another story, and I'll tell you that later. Pandu got married to two beautiful princes. One, the daughter of Kunti Bhoj and the sister of Vasudev, Kunti. The other, the princess of the great kingdom of Madra. He was very happy with his wives. He was very much in love with them. Oh, before I go forward, his marriage to Kunti is very significant. Kunti was none other than Vasudev's sister. Vasudev, the father of Krishna. She was the paternal aunt to both Balram, Subhadra, and Krishna. After their marriage, they came here for a honeymoon. Not actually to this vale. This is the vale of Shangad. But right next to this, there is a place called Satasringa. And they came here for a honeymoon. They made love, they sang poetry, they were romantic, they played, they were happy. His entire retinue was with him. Half of the Kuru army was with him. One day, Pandu went out for a hunt. When he was hunting, he saw that there was a deer making love to a doe. He did not think. It was adharma to kill two animals or two beings who were joined in lovemaking joined in coitus, he forgot that rule and he took out an arrow and shot the deer. The arrow went through the deer's heart and entered the doe's, and both of them lay on the ground, gasping for breath, gasping, taking their last dying breaths. Pandu, even while doing this, realized what he had done. He ran towards the deer and the doe, and in front of his eyes, the deer and the doe transformed into a Muni and the Muni's wife. They were actually a Rishi and his wife, who used to live in those forests, spending their day in penance. And whenever they felt like making love, just to spice up their lives, they used to take the form of different animals. The Rishi looked at Pandu in consternation. What have you done? You have gone against the rules of the world. You have killed two lovers united. Pandu apologized, but it was too late. Before dying, the Rishi cursed him. O great Pandu, for I know who you are. The day you make love to your wife, any one of them, the day you climax with them, you will die. You can never touch your wives. Pandu knelt down on the ground in consternation. He wept, but it was too late. He ran back to the camp where Kunti and Madri were there and told them the entire story. And Kunti and Madri said, there is nothing that we can do about this. Your life and our life has to be without passion. And so Pandu said, I take sannyas. You please go back to Hastinapur. You are queens. You are queens. You cannot stay in the forests. You have to go back. And Madri and Kunti said, no, you are our husband. We can never leave you and go. So the army went back. The retinue went back and told Bhishma the story, told Ambika and Amba the story, told Satyavati the story, told Dhritarashtra the story, and they were disappointed. But they also realized there was nothing that could be done. For 3 years, Pandu stayed in exile. It was not as if he did not feel like making love to his wives. He did. But either them or he stopped in the last crucial moment, thereby staying alive. And yet, after all of that, Pandu craved for children. Craved for children that he knew he could never have. One day, as he spent some time with some rishis who were camping in that forest, in that vale, on their way to Kailash Parvat, Pandu told them, let me come along with you. Let me come with you to Mount Kailash. And they said, this is not the time for you to come. You have 2 young wives. How can you come? And he told them the story that he could never have children. What kind of a life it was without a son? Who would give the fire in his mouth when he died? Who would take him to Vaikunt? Who would accompany him to heaven? Or rather, who would ease his way to heaven? And one of the rishis, a wise old man, a visionary, told him, your time has not come to die. I can look into your future. You know what? You're going to have 5 sons. And Pandu said, how will I have 5 sons? And this old rishi, this Munivar, turned around and told him, think about it. Think about it. Even your father, Vichitravirya, was not actually your father. He died. You were born long after he died. Pandu realized what he said. Pandu was silent for a while and then he ran back. Then he ran back to the ashram where Kunti and Madri were resting. And he went to Kunti and said, Kunti, you need to have a child. And Kunti said, exactly how? And he said, I will invite a rishi to sleep with you. I will invite a rishi to make love to you, and the child born, I will adopt him. And Kunti said, have you gone quite mad? Pandu explained. Pandu told her that this has been happening for centuries for kings who could not have children. Pandu told her the story of Ambika and Ambalika and Vedvyas. Kunti thought for a while. Kunti had a boon, which I'll tell you in a later story, from a Muni called Durvasa, who had blessed her with a mantra that could enable her to be the lover of any god she chose and to have a child with them. In fact, long before she was married, she had already mothered a child. That child was Karna. That is for a later story. This story is not about Karna. Kunti told Pandu about the boon. And instead of getting angry, Pandu was thoroughly thrilled. He said, what are you waiting for? Kunti, please call anybody you wish to. I want a son. Finally, Kunti was convinced. And both of them decided that the first lover that Kunti would call would be Dharmaraj. Pandu could be a father. Kunti would be a mother. The Kuru Vansh, through Pandu, would carry on. That was the story of Pandu, Kunti, and how they decided to have a child.